that working with your best friend can lead to complete disaster, and I think there is no better example of this than Call Her Daddy and the fallout between Alix Cooper and Sofia Franklyn. From the start, Call Her Daddy was a behemoth of a podcast, and its success was something that neither of them could have predicted. As a result, they were both massively unprepared for what that success meant for their friendship, and it all fell apart. I want to talk about the downfall of the original Call Her Daddy and where the show went afterward from the perspective of someone who followed this tea very closely. But I also want to get into it as someone who worked in the podcast industry at a different network around that time. I quit working at the network in September 2019, and this shit show went down around that time and a little bit afterwards. So all of this talk of IP and industry standard at the time was super interesting to me. I was like, oh my god, they're asking for their IP. That never happens. So let's just get into it, and if you like reality TV, pop culture, and internet history, I would love for you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Alright, so let's start at the beginning. The way the show began was pretty serendipitous. Back in 2018, 26-year-old Sofia Franklyn was working at Morgan Stanley in New York City. She catches an Uber pool, if y'all remember that, and she starts chatting it up with a co-writer. She's telling this girl that she lives in a studio apartment that she can't really afford and she needs a roommate. And this girl is like, wait, my friend is also looking for a roommate. Let me connect you guys. So Sofia meets up with this random girl, 24-year-old Alix Cooper, and they start looking for apartments together. The bond is instant, and they become best friends almost immediately. They sign a lease together on that first day of apartment hunting. Like, this is serious. They travel to Austin together for South by Southwest, and one night they're just sitting in a bar talking their shit. By the end of the night, a crowd of 20 to 30 people surrounded them and was just listening to their conversation and laughing. They were sharing snippets on social too, and people were loving it. It's at this point that things really click for Alix, because she had a YouTube channel at the time and aspirations of working in the entertainment industry. She and Sofia clearly have something special. They entertained all of these strangers just by being themselves. So she goes to Sofia and asks, do you want to start a YouTube channel together? We can be our raunchy, funny selves, and I really think this could go far. Sofia, who isn't having the best time at her finance job and also wants to work for herself, is totally down. So they start a YouTube channel and post the first episode of this show that we all know as Call Her Daddy. It's sexual, it's raunchy, it's graphic, it's real as fuck. Alix's friend comes to them and says, hey, I work at this podcast network startup, y'all should come record with us. Great. So they record a few more episodes with this network. And at this time, the girls are also sharing promotional clips to Instagram to kind of get the word out. One of these teasers shows up on the feed of Dave Portnoy, the founder and owner of Barstool Sports. He was actually already following Alix at the time because they had a couple of mutuals. Now, Barstool Sports at the time was very much giving, well, sports. From my perspective, it was just a bunch of men talking about man shit. I don't know. So Dave comes across these two young ladies talking about sex, and he's like, I need to get in on this. This could be really interesting for Barstool. He messages Alix and they end up meeting. Now, according to Dave, they meet 6 to 8 times to talk about Call Her Daddy and the future of the show, and it's only Alix there, no Sofia. So it kind of seems like Alix is really the one who's running this shit. She's editing every episode. She's the one who's in communication with Dave and Erica Ayers, who was the CEO of Barstool at the time. She's no blonde bimbo, as Dave put it. Barstool tells Alix they want to make a deal with her, and she's like, you mean us? We're a duo. And they're just like, yeah, both of you. She goes back to Sofia, who has no idea who Dave Portnoy even is, and tells her, this is a huge deal, Barstool is huge, we've got to take this. There's just one issue, and it's the IP, because Barstool wants it, and so do the girls. Now, IP stands for intellectual property, and this is essentially the name Call Her Daddy. They both want to own the rights to use that name, because when you own the name, you can use it to create Call Her Daddy merch. You can pitch a Call Her Daddy TV show, you can write a Call Her Daddy book. The possibilities are endless, right? Now, in the podcast industry at the time, to my knowledge, as a singular person working at a singular network, it was highly unusual for a host to retain their IP after signing. You sign to the network to grow your show, sell some ads, make money, and navigate the space. In exchange, the network owns your show. Now, if your show existed before signing to the network and you already had a large audience, then sure, maybe you could retain your IP and the network will just be along for the ride. But Call Her Daddy was new, and Barstool needed a piece of the pie and assurance that Sofia and Alix wouldn't randomly decide, fuck this, we're leaving Barstool and taking everything. In addition to the IP, IP, it was also unusual for a host to take the majority in a revenue split. At best, it was 50-50, and this is just from what I know. Maybe at Wondery or Studio 71, things were different back then, but where I worked, the hosts weren't getting the majority of the money, because at the end of the day, the network is the reason why you're making money, right? They're the ones who are selling the ad space. Not saying this is right or should have ever been allowed, but that's just how the cookie was crumbling back then. The network had the studio, the producer, the other shows to promote you on, the marketing team, etc. So there was no way that they were giving that up. And mind you, this is back in 2018 when podcasting is really starting to ramp up. Like at the time, everyone was still just trying to figure out podcasting from a business standpoint. So as an experienced podcast network owner, so to speak, Dave Portnoy is not giving them what they want. He tells them, you're not getting the IP. You're getting a $75,000 salary with bonuses for download milestones over the course of 3 years. Take it or leave it. Sofia and Alix take the deal and start recording the podcast with Barstool. And when I tell you this podcast completely blew up, it surpassed any goals or expectations that Barstool, Sofia, or Alix had. It was huge. They weren't the first women to hop on the mic and talk about blowjobs and sex and yada yada yada. Personally, at the time, I was a huge Guys We Fucked fan, and they were talking about those topics all the time and bringing on guests like the guys they'd fucked, obviously. But it still wasn't exactly the norm to hear, so people were obsessed with Call Her Daddy. They popularized all sorts of phrases and terms: Gluck Gluck 3000, Gluck Gluck 9000, I'm unwell, Daddy Gang. It was a cultural phenomenon. And between the ad spots on the show and the merch, Barstool and the girls were making a fortune. Sofia put this figure at $11 million. Barstool was making $11 million off of a single podcast. And because of its popularity, Alix and Sofia were far surpassing their meager 5-figure salaries. With bonuses, they both made around $500,000 that first year. But of course, $500,000 versus $11 million doesn't really sound like a fair, balanced deal. The girls often recorded the podcast at home and they edited the episodes themselves, so they weren't really using Barstool's resources. Also, the definition of edited it themselves kind of differs depending on who you ask. If you ask Sofia, she and Alix would sit down and watch each episode together, decide on the edits, and then Alix would go off and actually make those edits before turning in the finished show. If you ask Alix, she was spending 7 to 20 hours a week editing the show, which was so much more time than conceptualizing the episodes or recording them took. Sofia was more of the creative who would help come up with topics and funny stories. So, Alix went to Barstool by herself at the 6-month mark to meet up with Dave and ask for a personal raise. And he gave it to her. He felt like she was the one doing more work because she was editing the podcast and keeping up communication with Barstool. As far as he was concerned, it was well deserved. The piece of this that was a little bit shady in my opinion was that Alix never told Sofia that she had gone in for this meeting and was now making more money than her. It was about a $45,000 difference and she kept it low-key. But why not tell your best friend that you're going to be making more because you're doing more? Like, why would she be offended by that? Well, as it turns out, a little bit of tension had been building up between the two co-hosts concerning how the responsibilities were being split. In meetings, whenever someone would ask who edited the show, Sofia would say that they both did. But Alix didn't really agree with that. She felt like she was the one who was doing all the heavy lifting. When Alix would post on Snapchat about editing the show, Sofia would reach out to her and say, "Why are you posting that? You're making it look like I'm not doing anything." Meanwhile, according to Sofia, she offered to take editing classes and help lighten the load for Alix, but Alix refused to give up the job. Also, just because Alix never told Sofia about this raise doesn't mean that Sofia wasn't aware. Alix's childhood friend, known as MILF Hunter on the podcast, had found out about the raise and sang like Arianka to Sofia. Arianka? Ariani? So we already have a little bit of an awkward situation there, and as the girls are nearing their 1-year mark at Barstool, they keep hearing about how Barstool is screwing them over. They take a business trip to LA, and when they go on Logan Paul's podcast, he tells them that they are being royally fucked. Their friends were talking about how they were being taken advantage of. Even other Barstool hosts were like, "Girls, y'all are not making enough money." On top of all of this, Sofia had started dating this man named Peter Nelson, also known as Suit Man. He was a bigwig at HBO and had worked in the industry for a long time. He, allegedly, told them, "Y'all are being screwed, you need to shop the show around." So the girls start taking meetings at competing networks, and Peter's putting together this list of new terms and demands to bring to Barstool. They go in to meet with Dave at the 1-year mark about the contract and the future of the show. And while Dave thinks the meeting went well, neither Sofia nor Alix are happy with what he came up with. They consult with a lawyer who then emails Dave a list of their demands. According to the lawyer, Alix and Sofia didn't feel like they had proper representation when signing that first contract, and they deeply regretted giving Barstool the Call Her Daddy IP. So they were asking for that back, as well as $1 million guarantees for each of the girls, 50% of all revenue, and the ability to work for Barstool as 1099 contractors instead of W-2 employees. When you think about the fact that Barstool made $11 million off of this show, those requests don't really sound that crazy in the grand scheme of reality. But Dave really felt like Barstool was getting the shit end of the deal. After all, would Call Her Daddy have grown as much as it did without the support of Barstool? We don't know. Dave essentially tells them to go fuck themselves, and if they want to leave Barstool 2 years early, because remember, this is 1 year into a 3-year contract, he's gonna sue them. But eventually, he has a change of heart and comes up with a new deal. We can redo the contract, y'all can have the IP, but Barstool is going to retain alcohol rights with a 90-10 split. According to Sofia, a Call Her Daddy alcohol brand had already been in the works, the name was trademarked, and so on. And let's be real, an alcohol brand for Call Her Daddy? Pretty on brand for the show and would definitely be successful. With this new deal, Alix and Sofia stood to make millions and retain the rights to use the Call Her Daddy name for additional projects. When their lawyer gets back to Dave, they let him know that that alcohol split is gonna have to be reversed. They want 90, Barstool can have 10. At this point, Dave is offended. He texts Alix and says, "In the 17 years I've been doing this, I have never dealt with anyone as unprofessional, greedy, and disloyal as you two." Now shit's getting real, if it wasn't already real before. The girls stop recording new episodes, and when fans ask what's going on, they say that they can't legally talk about it, which isn't entirely true. They absolutely could have talked about it. We all know, Dave Portnoy is messy and lives for drama. It really only would have brought more attention to Barstool, so he was like, you know what, go ahead and talk about it. Call more attention to how greedy y'all are, I don't care. Instead of addressing what's going on head on with their fans, they just alluded to the fact that Barstool was holding them hostage in a series of social media posts. Hashtag free the fathers. Here's where things kind of take a turn though. After about a month of radio silence on the Call Her Daddy RSS feed, Alix reaches out to Dave to ask for a sit down. She and Sofia headed over to Dave's rooftop for an infamous meeting that changed the show forevermore. At the meeting, Dave's like, "I heard y'all are shopping the show around. What's going on?" They deny visiting other networks. They say the social media posts are all just jokes. It's all good. They love Barstool. And when Dave tells them that if they try to leave early, he'll sue, they're confused. They're like, "Sue us for what? It's our show." But it's not. The show belongs to whoever owns the IP, which we discussed earlier. Regardless, he has a new deal for them that he thinks is going to be an immediate, handshake, contract signed, move on moment. He offers them $500,000 each, an increase in their percentage for merch sales, and their IP. He also shortens their contract so they only have 1 year left instead of 2, and tells them that Barstool will be holding 80% of alcohol sales. To him, this is more than fair to both parties. You also have to keep in mind that at this point, these negotiations have been going on for so long that we are in May 2020. The pandemic is in full lockdown swing, and Dave's worried about keeping the lights on at Barstool. So he's just offering them the best deal he can to prevent them from leaving so that Barstool has that revenue. It was essentially a Hail Mary, as the Barstool sports people would say. But the girls leave without taking the deal, super confusing, and they ghost Dave completely. Up until this point, it has somewhat seemed that Alix and Sofia were both on the same page. They both knew that they were being taken advantage of, and they both wanted a new contract. But in reality, that tension that existed from the very beginning of the podcast had only grown more and more during this tough time. According to Alix, she was much more open to taking a deal with Barstool than Sofia. And with each negotiation that their lawyer put forth, Alix was feeling more and more trepidation about their asks. But Peter assured them that this was completely normal. You're allowed to ask for more. This is just how negotiation works. Meanwhile, Sofia's like, "I'm ready to get up out of here. We can do so much better." And she's starting to get a little bit more annoyed with Alix because she keeps trying to justify Barstool's unfair terms. For example, in the middle of these negotiations, Alix is like, "Well, you're probably saving a ton of money dating Peter, right? I mean, the 6-figure salary is stretching pretty well because he's rich and pays for everything. AKA, you don't need more money? I don't know." After this rooftop meeting, it was official. Alix and Sofia were on 2 separate pages. Alix wanted to take the deal and Sofia didn't. She wanted more. And in an attempt to keep the pair together, Alix went along with it and let Sofia continue moving the goalposts. Barstool says they get a certain percentage of merch, Sofia wants 10% more. Barstool agrees on that new percentage, now Sofia wants a higher percentage of alcohol sales. And it just kind of kept going like that. Barstool would concede, Alix would think, great, we got the deal done, and then Sofia would find something new to ask for. It gets to the point where Alix starts pushing back on the demands. She genuinely feels like Sofia is trying to sabotage this deal. She's trying to push Dave further and further until he just says, screw it, get out, and lets them go to another network. And allegedly, according to a New York Post article with a lot of insider information, the girls had already accepted a deal with Wondery, a competing network, before even taking the rooftop meeting. The idea was that Wondery would take over the show, rename it The Fathers, and deal with whatever lawsuit Barstool threw at them. Whatever money they were gonna have to spend on a lawsuit, they'd make it back tenfold just by having this show on their network. Now, Sofia says that Dave has contacts at the New York Post and was leaking all of this information to invalidate her. Dave says that Sofia's team was leaking information to the New York Post to make Barstool look bad. Who knows? The fact of the matter is that the article exposed that Sofia and Alix were no longer getting along. They were upset with each other about who was the real talent and who did more work. This guy Peter had come into their friendship and stirred up a bunch of drama. They even have a quote from Dave talking about how good the rooftop deal was. And when you hear the story from everyone's perspective today, the article told no lies. What had happened was, after Alix stopped playing along with Sofia's demands, their lawyer had reached out to them and basically just said, y'all need to get on the same page before I go back to Barstool with more. Valid. So Alix had called Sofia and they'd attempted to talk it out about what it would take for them to stay at Barstool and both be happy. Sofia told Alix that she felt like she'd been bulldozed into the Barstool deal. The rooftop meeting was just a courtesy before they bounced. Hi, you're causing a little bit of a commotion at the moment. Okay, just give her a moment. She had no intention of actually taking the Barstool deal. She just wanted to see if Dave would hand over the IP so they didn't have to change the name. She also asks Alix a very interesting question. What happens to the IP if one of us gets fired and the other stays? This raises a red flag for Alix because now she's paranoid that Sofia's plotting. She thinks that Sofia's gonna sign this Barstool deal, do something crazy to get herself fired, leave Alix to clean up the mess at Barstool, and then rejoin the show at a new network. Because think about it, this way she gets to reap the benefits of the Barstool deal and then leave anyway. Sofia to this day will tell you that she was just asking questions and Alix misconstrued her words. But now they're both paranoid about each other and the trust is kind of just broken. Alix feels like even if she does sign this deal with Sofia, she's still gonna get screwed in the end. Sofia feels like they're still not reaching their full potential with this Barstool deal and they need to walk away, point blank period. What it comes down to really is that Alix sees the value of the IP and Sofia does not. Alix thinks the power rests in the name, and Sofia thinks the power rests with the hosts. Alix thinks that what they're gonna make at Barstool is more than fair and worth playing the long game, so to speak, to keep that IP. And Sofia thinks that they could be making more money right now, so they should. After this call, Alix gets another call from their lawyer and says that Sofia has brought in new agents from WME and they've made additional changes to the deal. And when she looks at the new deal, it's not new at all. It's practically identical to that original list of demands that Peter drew up for them, with a few more additions that really push it over the edge. Now Sofia wanted their contract to be 6 months, not a year. Plus, the girls would get their IP at the end of that 6 months or whenever they wanted to terminate. Also, merch is up from 15% to 20%. This is the end for Alix. This is when she realizes, I can't work with Sofia anymore. We are done. She cares too much about getting as much money as humanly possible as soon as humanly possible, rather than caring about getting new episodes out or appeasing their fans. Alix decides to get her own lawyer and she meets with Dave again and says, look, a lot of shit has been going on with these negotiations over the past few months. I had nothing to do with that. That was all Sofia and her man. I want to take the rooftop deal. And messy ass Dave calls up Sofia and says, you're fucked. Alix just came in and she's gonna take the deal without you. Is this millennial coded when I do this? I saw on TikTok that y'all are doing this. What is this? Or this? Anyway, Barstool ends up offering Alix 75% of Call Her Daddy, period. So without Sofia, there's no 50-50 anymore. It's 75-25 in Alix's favor, which she feels like is fair because again, she felt like she was really doing all the work. So now Alix is back in with Barstool and Sofia's fucked because without Alix, she doesn't have the Wondery deal. Sofia has officially girl boss too close to the sun and now she has been cut out. What do they say? What is that Barstool-esque saying? She was left, She was left holding her dick in her hand? Is that what it is? She was left holding her dick in her... That is so weird. Okay, that is what that saying means. She was screwed. She came running back to Barstool and was like, okay, I'm in, fine. I'll do 50-50 on Call Her Daddy. I'll do it on your terms. I'm cool. But unfortunately, now it's too little too late because Alix has accepted this 75-25 deal, and why would she want to do 50-50 with a co-host that she doesn't trust anyway? So Barstool offers Sofia her own separate deal for a new podcast that they will promote on the Call Her Daddy feed. It'll just be Sofia, she'll get $500,000, and she'll own the IP. But still, Dave is claiming that Sofia's lawyers and agents can't shut the hell up and just take the deal, so it falls flat. It is at this point that Call Her Daddy goes solo with Alix as its lone host. Dave Portnoy takes over the Call Her Daddy feed and releases this episode talking all about how Sofia is this greedy ass bitch with a greedy, insufferable boyfriend. He tells the whole story from his perspective, and he is pissed at Sofia and Peter. Alix shares a YouTube video and does her first solo episode explaining that this whole situation was super messy behind the scenes and she can no longer trust Sofia. Alix maintained that she did the large majority of the work for the podcast, and Sofia essentially just showed up and was really talented on the mic, and that was about it. Peter had really put a strain on their friendship and had also inserted himself so much into the podcast that Alix was extremely uncomfortable and it was just never gonna work. And you gotta admit, at the time, Sofia looked really fucking bad. She pretty much just looked super greedy and like she didn't care about the integrity of the show. She just wanted to make money, and the fans turned on her completely. Let me tell you something, if there is a fan base that is not so great when they turn on you, it's Barstool. Sofia's comment section and DMs were filled with so much name-calling, threats, and general hate that she packed up, left New York City, and moved back in with her mom in Utah. We don't really hear from her aside from a very brief video, during which she details the betrayal she experienced when Alix went behind her back and negotiated a solo deal with Barstool.
I'm willing to do Call Her Daddy. I really am. I just can't do it under the circumstances that she wants. I can't do it while she's demanding that she controls the show. I don't want to be like her employee. We are partners. We've always been that way. We've always been 50-50. And so it's putting me in like an extremely tough position.
Look, I understand why Sofia felt betrayed after Alix went and got that raise, first of all, and then went back and negotiated a deal that got her 75% of their show. However, as someone who has worked with friends on projects like this is a tale as old as time. Inevitably, one person takes it more seriously, puts in more work, and has a specific vision. And the other person maybe doesn't have the time or the ability to put in the necessary work to truly make it a 50-50 partnership, and they see something completely different for the future. This is why it's practically a cliche at this point for people to say don't work with your friends. Sofia kept mum for a couple of months before launching her own podcast, Sofia with an F, within her own media company, Sloop Media. And when she finally tells her side of the story, she is fucking pissed. She reads a message that she sent to Alix, and it is absolutely scathing. Here's a snippet.
I add more value through my creativity than all of your editing hours combined. My value is more than 50%. Your skills are menial, mine are intangible. To say you do more than me is a fucking joke, and that you are so insecure about your talent that you want to measure yourself in editing hours and social media posts would be laughable if I didn't find it so pathetic.
So in Sofia's eyes, Alix is completely unfunny and unable to craft her own scripts. She relied on Sofia for the entertainment factor of Call Her Daddy, which is arguably the most important part of the show. But in a desperate attempt to get a leg up, Alix had gone behind her back and cut her out. And on top of that, she and Dave had perpetuated this narrative that Peter Nelson was controlling Sofia and telling her what to do. This is a story that Sofia felt was rooted in misogyny. Anything she felt she deserved from Call Her Daddy was her idea, not Peter's. He didn't make decisions about the show, she did. And to suggest otherwise is just a blatant lie to make her look bad. Alix was all about getting herself a place in the entertainment industry, and she didn't care who she had to step on to get there, even if she was stepping on her best friend. friend. That's just how Sofia saw it. And as Sofia continued on her own and picked up the pieces, more and more people started to hear her out. Now they understood that yes, Call Her Daddy was worth a lot more, and Sofia wasn't inherently wrong for recognizing that and going for it. She started building listenership on her own platform, with many Call Her Daddy fans returning to her. Meanwhile, Alix is doing the show on her own and inviting popular guests like Holly Madison and Harry Jowsey. I remember her interview with Miley Cyrus really blowing up and going viral and just taking the show's popularity further into the stratosphere. Alix was still talking about sex and relationships, but she was moving further away from the debaucherous beginnings of the podcast and doing more traditional interviewee kind of episodes. The following year, she received an offer from Spotify that Barstool just couldn't match. I don't know about their specific contract, but when I worked in podcasting, it was pretty common for contracts to include a first right of refusal or right to match clause. Basically, it just says you can leave if you want to, but before you go to another network, we have the right to take a look at what they're offering you and offer to match it to keep you here. But Spotify was offering Alix a 3-year and $60 million contract to host her podcast exclusively on their platform. Mind you, the year before, she and her co-host were trying to get $1 million. Now on her own, she has far surpassed that. After moving over to Spotify, Call Her Daddy skyrocketed even more. I'm not gonna lie, she was getting some really good guests. Chelsea Handler, Annalyn McCord, aka Eden from Nip Tuck, that was a really exciting one for me. Amanda Knox was on there talking about her murder trial in Italy. I mean, she was still doing solo episodes, but it was really turning a new leaf. Alix was now Spotify's second highest paid host behind Joe Rogan, with publications calling her Gen Z's Barbara Walters. Now, I don't know if I would take it that far, okay? Rest in peace, Barbara, our queen. That Menendez brothers interview was everything, girl. But you can't deny, she was making bank. And like other successful podcasters, like Lady Gang, The Skinny Confidential, and My Favorite Murder, Alix decided to take it all to a whole new level by starting her own podcast network. In 2023, the Unwell Network began, signing internet celebrities like Madeline RG and Harry Jowsey. But one talent really stood out among the rest because she really was like a mini Alex Cooper. They even had the same first name, albeit spelled a little bit differently. Yeah, I'm talking about Alix Earle. She launched her podcast, Hot Mess, with Unwell and surpassed Call Her Daddy on the podcast charts. Her debut episode was #1 and Call Her Daddy was #2. It really seemed like a partnership made in heaven. Alix Cooper had started her career as the raunchy party girl in New York City, and Alix Earle had started hers kinda similarly. She was the party girl in Miami. Both of the Alix's shows were flourishing. And it all got even bigger in 2024 when Alix left Spotify to sign a new deal with SiriusXM for $125 million. What would I do with $125 million? Wow. I would reopen Pump on Santa Monica Boulevard. That's step one. Now, Sofia has said that she doesn't listen to Call Her Daddy or keep up with what Alix is doing, but if I were her personally and I hadn't already started punching the air, this is when I would. That is a lot of money. That's Dave Portnoy money. SiriusXM took over advertising for Call Her Daddy and all of the shows on the Unwell Network. Alix even gets her own music station on SiriusXM. But as the network and the net worth were on the up and up, Alix Cooper's relationship with Alix Earle apparently was suffering. Back in February, an announcement went out that Alix Earle's Hot Mess had been dropped by Unwell. Didn't leave, okay? Didn't mutually part ways, was dropped. And this didn't exactly come out of nowhere. All eyes had been on the duo in recent months, noting odd behavior and an apparent rift. For example, Unwell threw this Super Bowl party in New Orleans, and Alix Earle didn't go even though she was in town. People were referencing the fallout with Sofia as evidence that Alix Cooper had done something shady to Alix Earle, causing her to leave the network rather than being dropped. And shortly after the split, Alix announced that Hot Mess would be on a break for the foreseeable future. Even though she didn't say anything about Alix Cooper or Unwell, the comments went wild with speculation that Alix had done something. Was she refusing to give Alix Earle the Hot Mess IP? That would be ironic, and the thought of that really pissed people off. They started commenting on Alix Cooper's socials asking why other Alix couldn't keep doing her podcast. And Alix quickly took to her Instagram story to promote her beverage line Unwell and make it abundantly clear that she had nothing to do with the reason why Alix Earle had stopped podcasting. This is still kind of unfolding, and we don't really know what went down with the two to Alix's. My personal guess is that it has nothing to do with friend drama or not showing up to a party or any of that shit. I think that there might have been a conflict of interest between Unwell, the beverage brand, and Alix Earle, who had recently invested in a new drink company called Sip Marks. I don't know though, because Alix Earle was also invested in Poppy, and that wasn't a conflict. Maybe the TikTok drama accounts are onto something. Maybe there was drama there, maybe Alix Earle just didn't like the direction that Alex Cooper wanted Hot Mess to go in, who really knows? But just because there's one public friendship falling out doesn't mean that every single public friendship after that is gonna meet the same fate. Despite all of the drama that went down during Call Her Daddy's humble beginnings, Alex Cooper has turned this little sexy Barstool podcast into a multi-million-dollar media company. Nowadays, when you read Call Her Daddy in a headline, it's not necessarily because of something bad that Alex Cooper did, right? 99% of the time, it's because of a guest that she interviewed. On a recent This Is Niche, we talked about the backlash that Chappell Roan got from her recent Call Her Daddy interview. We've all seen the show in the news for her interview with Kamala Harris during the election. There was the Rachel Kirkconnell tell-all. I mean, she's getting some pretty juicy headlines out of this show. And for the most part, it's a huge success. Alex does get a little bit of backlash for her interview style, and I can kind of see why. I think a lot of these really big celebrity guests love going on Call Her Daddy because they know it's gonna be advantageous to them. They're just gonna get a bunch of softball questions, and they're not really gonna have to answer anything hard. There aren't really a ton of controversial questions, which is why the Barbara Walters comparison kind of throws me a little bit, because Barbara? Y'all remember the Ricky Martin interview? But look, regardless about how you feel about her as an interviewer, no one can deny Alex Cooper's star power and the success of her show. Here in 2025, when I look back at that initial drama, it's very clear that Alex Cooper saw the future potential of the show and was playing the long game. Sofia saw the current success and wanted that payout. Unfortunately, sometimes it's the shitty unpaid internship that lands you the dream job, and I think that's exactly what happened here with Call Her Daddy. That being said, would the show be where it is today had they retained their partnership? According to Sofia, the show was doomed regardless because they just had different visions of where the show was gonna go. I think that moving to that interview format was a really, really good move for Alex, and I'm not sure if that would have happened had they stayed together. Sofia has her own successful podcast, of course, of which she owns 100% of the IP and can say or do whatever she wants. She does interviews of her own with Katie Maloney and Meghan McCain and Jesse McCartney. I mean, she even got Amanda Knox too. Amanda Knox was making the rounds. She also interviewed Luann de Lesseps, which is absolutely iconic. Go watch my video on Tom D'Agostino to fully understand why that is a fantastic get. But overall, it just is what it is. Sofia has said that she has no regrets about her approach to negotiating and the future of the show. She only regrets not standing up for herself sooner. And as for Alex, I mean, can't say for sure, but I'm pretty sure she doesn't have many regrets either. I think she's doing just fine. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. Also, let me know what other stories you want to hear about on here. I have a very, very long note of past internet dealings that I want to cover on this channel, but let me know. Sometimes y'all bring up situations and I'm like, oh my God, I completely forgot about that. The other day in my TikTok comment section, someone mentioned DashCon. How do you remember that? More importantly, how did I forget about that? You can also follow me on TikTok and Instagram for more content like this, and I will catch you later. Although I'm probably just gonna sit here because she's sleeping on my lap and I just can't move her. She's just too cute. Do you want to say hi to the people? Everybody online thinks you're so cute. They think you're so precious. Isn't she just a little angel? Okay, bye.